Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighna Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to DISHA 54, a new series of an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. In today's session, we'll be commencing study of Bhakti Yoga, the 12th chapter with verses 1 to 12. Dr. Anupama Shetty will be the speaker of the day who will explain these verses. She will also touch upon the topic of upasana yoga as explained in Tattva Bodha. After the talk by Dr. Anupama Shetty, today's teaching quiz will be hosted by Srimati Padma Chandrasekhar. Now it's shloka time and this will be handled by Srimati Nilima. Later, Dr. Hegde sir will give us introduction to the day's topic. Now, I invite Srimati Nilima to explain the shloka of the day. Nilima, please.
Jai Gurudev. Today, we'll be seeing Shiva Prarthana. It's also Prayaschitta mantra, a shloka in praise of Lord Shiva. Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Trayambakaya Tripurantakaya Trikalagnikalaya Kalagnirudraya Neelakantaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Sriman Mahadevaya Namaha. Let us see word to word meaning. Next slide. Vishveshwaraya, Lord of entire world. Mahadevaya, Lord who is limitless. Trayambakaya, who knows our past, present and future. Tripurantakaya, who brings an end to Bhu, Buha and Suvaha. Trikalagnikalaya, who devours the three kalas. Next slide. Kalagni Rudraya, Karma Phaladhata. Neelakantaya, lords whose neck is like the blue sky. Mrityunjayaya, who is a lord of death. Sarveshwaraya, lord of all beings. Sada Shivaya, nature of pure Ananda. Sriman Mahadevaya, who is a bestower of blessings. Meaning, Shiva, O Lord, salutations to you, who is the greatest of all, with three eyes, eye of omniscience, and who gives enlightenment beyond the three, astral, physical, and causal worlds, and who is like a fire devours all three times, past, present, and future, within himself. Mahakal, who ends everything, whose body is vast like a blue sky. O great Lord, salutations to you. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Nilima, for introducing and explaining this prayer. Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya, part of Shri Rudram. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. As we begin the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is on Bhakti, I have selected one verse from Shiva Manasa Puja. The first line is like this: Atma Tvam Girijamati Sahachara Prana Shariram Griham. And the concluding line is something that we need to remember all the time. This is a nice prayer for any bhakta. Yadyat karma karomi taddad akilam shambho tavaradana. In this, a bhakta acknowledges few things. Atma Tvam, O Lord, you are the Atma dwelling in my heart, because of which I am alive, because of which I am able to function. And all the time, be aware of the Shiva Tattva or the Atma Tattva, because of which I am able to become aware of everything. My intellect, my mind is none other than Girija Mati. We are telling the Lord, Sahachara Prana, all the driving force in me are your attendants. My body is the home for you to dwell. Shariram Griham. whatever I enjoy, puja te vishayopa bhoga rachana, whatever enjoyable experiences I have is a yajna towards you. My nidra is your samadhi sthiti, and wherever I walk becomes a pradakshina. Whatever I speak is a stotra. And concluding again, yad karma karoti tattad akilam shambho tavaradhanam. We study as part of the DISHA, we will be covering this entire chapter in 2 parts. The second part deals with the benefit of bhakti. That means if bhakti has flowered in our life, a person becomes like a sthita prajna. So you have those beautiful verses exactly like we had at the end of the second chapter, where Arjuna asks what are the qualities of a sthita prajna, and that we will see here as a parabhakta. But before that, we have a set of verses which can be a little confusing, and that is why we need acharyas to be able to explain these verses. Today's DISHA will be by Dr. Anupama, and I will have it more interactive. I will begin by asking her questions, and most of the DISHA will be like a question-answer fashion. In Vedanta, in higher levels of Vedanta, you have a person who always questions, and they are called Purva Pakshi. In a way, I will play the role of a Purva Pakshi in asking the speaker for the day, Dr. Anupama. We have the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we know when we study the Gita, a verse or more than one verse in the previous chapters is usually the seed verse for that chapter. Dr. Anupama, can you tell us what is the seed verse for the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In this chapter called Bhakti Yoga, Krishna explains verse 55 as the seed verse. And this is from chapter 11. The verse goes like this. Mat karma krin, mat paramaha, mad bhaktaha, sangha varjita, nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, yaha samam eti pandava. This verse is the definition of bhakti. It means bhakti is the way to moksha.
Thank you very much. Mat karma krita. That means become a karma yogi. Whatever you do, let it be an Ishvara Arpana. Mad Bhakta Baba. Become a Jignasu Bhakta. Seek the Lord in all and let the Lord be our goal. And whatever we do or whatever difficulties we encounter in the world, be a means to be achieved that goal. Mat Parama Baba. Become a Tivra Mukshu. Pursue Vedantic studies, attain the required qualifications, and then be able to realize the Lord as my own self. Aham Brahmasmi. Sangha Varjita Bhava. Be detached from all material things in the world. Don't have strong attachment to the world. Otherwise, that will take you away from your spiritual pursuit. So this is the seed verse for the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What is bhakti? Can you give us 2 meanings for the word bhakti?
Okay. The word bhakti has 2 meanings. It means devotion or love directed to a higher principle, which could be God, a guru, parents, and so on. Bhakti also is a course of discipline which enables us to achieve a spiritual goal. The topic for today is bhakti as a course of discipline.
What are the sadhanas included in bhakti? Is it a single sadhana? Is it that more than one sadhana? Can you explain all the sadhanas involved in bhakti yoga, please?
Okay. Bhakti is not one particular sadhana. All sadhanas, karma, upasana, and jnana yoga become spiritual only because of bhakti. For example, a karma becomes karma yoga when performed with Ishvara Arpana Bhavana and Prasada Buddhi. This attitude transforms a karma into bhakti yoga. We can have different aspects of bhakti, starting with karma bhakti yoga. This is best described in verse 27 of chapter 9 as Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat Yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva mad arpanam. This means whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer as an oblation or charity, whatever austerity you undertake, dedicate it as an offering to me. This is Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. Upasana Bhakti Yoga is, we know upasana is meditation upon the Lord for the development of mental discipline and integration. It could be in the form of... Shall I proceed?
Please proceed.
Yeah. Upasana is meditation upon Lord for development of mental discipline and integration. It could be in the form of manasa japa, manasa parayana, or manasa puja. Therefore, upasana yoga takes place in the atmosphere of bhakti alone. With jnana yoga also, we see that we start and end all our studies of scriptures with a prayer. Jnana yoga is ultimately about discovering God in myself. Soham asmi. So we see that in and through all the yogas, starting with God as a means, progressing to God as a goal, and finally seeing God as myself, bhakti is an integral part of every sadhana.
Thank you very much. So it is Swami Paramarthananda who emphasizes again and again that bhakti is not a single sadhana, but encompasses karma, it encompasses upasana, and encompasses jnana. This is very well seen when you study the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna gives us 5 steps. Dr. Anupama, can you elaborate these 5 steps so that when we go to the 12th chapter, we will be very clear about these 5 steps of evolution of the various sadhanas in bhakti.
So step 1 is called sakama karma. These are selfish actions, rajasa karmani. They're also called para udasana karmani because the person is indifferent to others and there is definitely no spiritual growth here. At this level, although karmas are selfish, 2 conditions prevail. Krishna says, use only legitimate means and accept the result as Ishvara Prasada. The second step is Nishkama Karma. The bhakta evolves enough to become aware of the needs of the people around him. His karmas gradually become Uttama Karmani or Satvika Karmani. Being aware of others, he performs Para Upakara Karmani in the form of Pancha Mahayajnas. He learns to give more and takes less. This is spiritually uplifting. Third step is Eka Rupa Ishvara Upasana or Saguna Rupa Ishvara Upasana. This could be in the form of Ishta Devata Bhakti, wherein God can be personified as Rama, Krishna, etc. This is called Pratima, or Upasana upon a symbol, Pratika, which could be Omkara, a flame, Lingam, and so on. Krishna calls this Abhyasa Yoga. The fourth step is Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti. Here the Bhakta has evolved to perceive divinity in all aspects of creation. The fifth and final step, the highest, is Nirguna Ishvara Bhakti, also called Akshara Upasana. This is meditation upon the meditator.
Thank you very much. As you study again the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna begins with Nirguna Ishvara Bhakti right in the beginning. And immediately he senses the difficulty, and you will see he will gradually go down in a step down manner. Can you give us the whole range of bhakti in this illustration, Dr. Anupam?
Okay, let us see what happens to the bhakta as he ascends. The Saguna Ishvara Bhakta, the one who does Sakama Karma that we just saw, ascends from Sakama to Nishkama Karma. That means he ascends from step 1 to step 2. Gradually, he becomes a Karma Yogi, and with Ishvara Arpana Bhavana and Prasada Buddhi, he gets Chitta Shuddhi. With this, he is free from Raga Dvesha, Ahankara, Mamakara. his mind expands to see divinity beyond his Ishta or Ekarupa Ishvara. He now ascends from step 3 to step 4 and becomes a Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakta. The entire creation now is the universal form of God. Gradually, his extrovert mind turns inward. His jnana yogyata leads him to self-inquiry. Yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman. He now becomes a jnana yogi. Advancing from Eka to Aneka and Nirguna Ishvara Upasana, the 5th level of bhakti, he successfully ascends the 5th step and ascends it and crosses over to become a Parabhakta. Having crossed over from the triangular format, he is now anchored in the binary format. This Nirguna Bhakta or Akshara Upasaka has evolved from Sadhaka to Siddha. He has reached the destination. He has evolved from Bhakta to Bhagavan, and he perceives the Paramarthika existence. This Parabhakta shows us that bhakti is a way to moksha by being in Advaitam, that is in the binary format, by being a jnani and having discovered Aham Brahma Asmi. Krishna calls him his dearest bhakta, jnani tu atma eva me matam, and he alone attains me, te prapnuvanti mam eva.
Thank you very much. As I look into this nice illustration, now this is a route map for all of us to begin from Sakama Karma to Nishkama, to open our eyes to Ekarupa Ishvara Upasana, progress to Vishwarupa Ishvara Upasana. And this is an important step. The Vishwarupa Ishvara Upasana is the turning point to help us to go inwards and to be able to discover Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam. And once that flowers, it becomes Nishta. Then we have the second part of this chapter where Krishna describes how a Parabhakta functions. This chapter begins with a question from Arjuna. His question is a very little strange. I will chant this verse. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yuktaye bhaktasvam paryupasate ye chapyakshara mauvyaktam tesham ke yoga uttamaha. Arjuna wishes to know what kind of bhakta is dear. That means the one who is following the Lord with form, and the other who's able to worship a Lord without form. Now, can you explain this question and how Sri Krishna answers this question, please?
Okay. Arjuna wanted to know whether a Saguna Bhakta or a Nirguna Ishvara Bhakta is superior. Who of the two is superior in Krishna's opinion? And Krishna's answer was, verse 2, Mai aveshya manaha ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddaya parayopetaste me yukta tama mataha. This means a Saguna Upasaka is the best among all yogis. Later on, Krishna says, the Nirguna Upasaka attains me. Te prapnuvanti mam eva. So what is the inference? A wrong question cannot have a right answer. Saguna and Nirguna Ishvara exist in different planes of reality and they cannot be compared. Why is this so? Saguna Bhakti is a means to Nirguna Bhakti. Without Saguna Brahma Upasana, Nirguna Brahma Upasana is just impossible. And without Nirguna Brahma Upasana, Saguna Brahma Upasana is incomplete. Krishna's answer was diplomatic. Saguna Bhaktas, he says, are superior, but Nirguna Bhaktas attain me.
As part of the answer that Sri Krishna gives, Sri Krishna immediately goes to describe Nirguna Brahma in this verse 3. And in verse 4, he describes what are the qualifications a person needs to be able to have to be able to attain to Nirguna Brahma. Yet vaksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. You have a lot of words describing Nirguna Brahma. Of all of them, I'm particularly interested in kutastam. I would request you to explain this verse and in the next verse. And in the next verse, there are various qualifications a person needs to have in order to be able to understand these words. Dr. Anupama, please.
I'll read the two verses together. Ye tvaksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam sanniyam indriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvante mam eva sarva bhuta hite rataha. Now, we know that Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam is Jnana Yoga Sadhana or nididhyasana. Krishna calls it akshara Brahma Yoga. It is the fifth step, the highest stage of bhakti yoga. Here, Krishna introduces Brahman as avyaktam, meaning not perceived by sense organs, indriya agocharam. Achintyam means not perceived by the mind, mano agocharam. Anirdesham means cannot be expressed with words, vag agocharam. These three qualities make Brahman aprameyam. He goes on to say sarvatragam, meaning all-pervading, achalam, motionless or infinite, dhruvam, eternal. Kuta here means, kuta has got many meanings, but the one I chose is kuta means maya, which is attractive but fake. And astha means present as sakshi, the consciousness principle. Therefore, kutastham means Brahman, which lends existence to Maya and the world. Krishna then describes the qualifications of a Nirguna Upasana Bhakta as Sanniyam Indriya Grama, meaning he's the master of his body-mind complex. Sarvatram Samabuddhayaha, meaning he has Samatvam, equipoise, and Sarva Bhuta Hiteratha, he has Daivi Sampat, means he maintains a dharmic lifestyle. Krishna then goes on to say, this akshara upasaka attains me, te prapnuvanti mam eva. Now, this could have one of three meanings. Te eva mam prapnuvanti, meaning they alone, the Nirguna Brahma Upasaka alone attains moksha. Or it could mean te mam eva prapnuvante. They attain me alone, not Swargaloka, Brahmaloka, Shuklagati and the kind. And finally, it could also mean te mam prapnuvanti eva. They will certainly attain me.
Very much for a nice and a clear explanation of these verses. In the next few verses, Krishna describes that Nirguna Upasana is certainly difficult. You know, we are referring to the question that Arjuna asked, which form of Bhakta? Is it the Sakama Bhakta or the Nirguna Bhakta is dear to you? And Shri Krishna will tell it is difficult. But if you study the Bhagavad Gita, there are certain places where he says is susukam. So there is a debate. Is Nirguna Upasana easy or difficult? Can you please answer this question?
So in chapter 9, verse 2, Krishna has said that Nirguna Brahma Upasana is susukham. And here in chapter 12, verse 5, Krishna describes that as kleshaha adhikataraha, very difficult. Why? Avapyate dukkham dehavadbihi. This difficulty is caused by dehabhimana. Nirguna Upasana has been described in Kathopanishad as Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya. It is as tough as treading upon the edge of a sharp razor. Now, is all this contradictory? Not at all. The subject of Nirguna Upasana is very subtle. Asparsham, arupam, and so on. If the Upasaka is a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, that is, devoid of ahankara mamakara, it is certainly susukam, otherwise duratyaya. It ultimately depends upon the evolution of the bhakta. We can see this little boy here in red. He seems to be doing well, even without a saguna abacus. It is about practice. So if we find Nirguna Upasana difficult, what should we do? We should not give up. We do have Saguna Ishvara as backup. Ahankara Mamakara Tyaga is certainly very difficult. When the going is tough, as in when we face Prabala Prarabdha, it is okay to seek God's help. After all, the triangular format is a safety net. Just descend to level 4.
We now come to the actual gradation in bhakti from Nirguna bhakti to if you find Nirguna Ishvara bhakti difficult, Krishna gives a stepwise fashion to come down. And if this is understood, the first set of verses of the 12th chapter are easy to understand. Dr. Anupama, please.
Descending to step 4, which is Vishvarupa Ishvara. Since Nirguna Brahma Upasana may be difficult for most of us, we have to prepare and qualify ourselves. Krishna says, get jnana yogyata by sarvani karmani mai sanyasya mat paraha mam ananyena eva yogena, meaning dedicate all actions at my feet. But where are the feet of the Lord? Everywhere. Sarvatra panipadam tat sarvato shishiro mukham. Every action now becomes a part of the universe, the Lord. Mai sanyasya. Mai here means Vishvarupa Ishvara. From this step, Krishna assures us that he will elevate us to the 5th. If Vishvarupa Ishvara is not appealing enough, what will you do? Krishna says, Mai chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi. If you are unable to focus your mind on Vishvarupa Ishvara, then just come down to step 3. Eka Rupa Ishvara Upasana or Ishta Devata Upasana, which Krishna here calls Abhyasa Yoga. Krishna says, as Ishta Deva, I will elevate you to Vishvarupa Ishvara Bhakti and finally Nirguna Brahma Bhakti. Now, if one feels unfit to do upasana, incapable of any mental activity, what will he do? This could be a Rajoguna Pradhana extrovert person. And this person is Abhyasa Yoga api asamarthaha. Krishna says, try step 2. Mad artam api kurvan karmani, mat karma paraha bhavaha. Remain dedicated to nishkama karmani regarding the very society as Ishvara. This is Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. But if one is unwilling to practice nishkama karma, just descend to step 1. Krishna says, fulfill all your worldly desires, sakama karmas, by worshipping me and renounce the results with self-restraint. Mad yogam ashritaha sarva karma palatyaga tat kuru yat atmavan. This is the first stage of bhakti. But even in this first stage, one could cultivate Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. And this Ishvara Sambandha as bhakti purifies the mind and refines his desires up to moksha ichcha also, which is the most refined desire. So by ascending the 5 levels of bhakti, one becomes a Brahma Jnani, a Sthira Prajna. Shankaracharya in Viveka Chudamani verse 31 says, Moksha Karana Samagriyam Bhakti Reva Griyasi Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhakti Ritya Adidhyate. This means, among things conducive to liberation, bhakti alone holds a supreme place. Seeking one's real nature is indeed designated as bhakti or devotion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, for not only giving us a very nice summary of the first set of verses of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Shri Krishna talks in a stepwise fashion how to become from where we are to where we should come to the level of a Parabhakta, and finally to be able to give us a very nice definition of what bhakti is from the Viveka Chudamani. And this particular verse is very often quoted, Sasvarupa Anusandhanam. To be able to discover your true nature, Bhakti Reva Abhidhiyate. That means Bhakti is the way, and for Moksha Karana, among all the techniques, one of the most powerful technique. It is through Bhakti you will get the grace of a Guru, and the Guru and Bhakti will give you Jnana Yogyata, and from Jnana Yogyata you get Jnanam, and from Jnanam you get Jnana Nishta. All this is possible through Bhakti alone. Finally, if I have to summarize the whole chapter of Bhakti, this is very well given to us by Swami Paramarthanandaji. Now, if you look into our own lives, we would like to see, am I a Manda Bhakta or a Madhyama Bhakta or a Uttama Bhakta? Initially, all of us are Manda Bhakta, up to a certain stage when we follow Bhakti in the form of God with form, Eka Rupa. But as we evolve beyond a certain stage, we get to understand that God, who is infinite and who's all-pervading and limitless, cannot be limited to a form. And then if God is the creator, with what did he create this universe? He had to create from himself. And that is when we move from Eka Rupa to Vishwarupa or Aneka Rupa. And then my eyes open to be able to see divinity in everything around me, we come to Madhyama Bhakta. Ultimately, when you discover godliness is everywhere, God should be in me also. What is there in me that never changes? Everything else undergoes change. Everything in me is finite, but there is something of the infinite, the non-changing. There is something that has been there from the very beginning and it will be there till the very end. And when you discover this conscious existence principle in ourselves, we begin to discover the Arupa. And if you look at Bhakti from the level of the creation, you initially see God as the creator. Later on, you see God as the creation. And then you see God as my sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. That infinite, all-pervading principle as the real godliness. Initially, God is paroksha. Aksha means sense organs. Para means away from sense organs. Later on, when you see the Lord or see the creation as the Lord, it is pratyaksha. It is very close to me. I will be able to see God close to me. Later on, it is aparoksha. It is none other than myself. That is a great discovery. Initially, God is the means. For most of us, God is the service provider whenever I am in difficulty. The big jump happens. Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan happens when you discover the world is the means, and all the difficulty in the world as a means and God as the goal. And finally, through Guru Shastra, the discovery happens one day that conscious principle because of which I'm able to hear, that conscious principle because of which I'm able to function is none other the real divine. And my body-mind is only an instrument that helps me to function through all this. What are the sadhanas? Nicely explained in today's class. Yat yat karma karoti akhilam. Whatever I do it with that bhava bhakti. Whatever thoughts in my mind and whatever words that I speak. So everything can be, and upasana is also brings in bhakti. And finally, jnana yoga, because our own scriptural basis is God-centric, and therefore bhakti comes in and through. With this, we conclude the Madhyama Shatakam of the Bhagavad Gita, which we began in the 7th chapter, where Krishna begins to declare that I will reveal to you my higher and lower self. And if you have been able to discover, and through the grace of our gurus, if we have been able to open our eyes to divinity in the world around us in the form of Vishwarupa and the discovery of the divinity within ourselves, and to be able to flower it in and through, which we will be seeing in the next class that we will have, the Parabhakta. Tulya nindastu sthiramauni santushto yena kenachit aniketaha sthiramatihi bhakti mam em priyo naraha. That individual is dear to me, who is in that state of equilibrium, whether he is praised, whether he is criticized, and so on. With that, we will come to today's quiz. All our DISHA program is a nice teaching program. We will have in a question answer fashion. Padma Chandrasekhar will lead us to a teaching quiz. Padma, please.
Namaste, sir. So today's quiz, Shri Venkatesh Prasad sir will answer the questions.
Yes,
So the
Padma.
yes. So the first question: what are the two main topics dealt with in chapter 12?
Chapter 12 deals with two topics, bhakti as a means of moksha and bhakti yoga phalam. From verses 1 to 12 deals with the first one, and from 13 to 20 deals with yoga phalam.
Yes, you're right. All 20 verses give a comprehensive picture of the essence of Vedas. Next question: what is bhakti yoga?
See, bhakti is an undercurrent in all the three sadhanas, karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga. So, bhakti yoga is a combination of all the three, and it runs through all the three.
Yes, you're right. And it is in the atmosphere of Ishvara Bhakti, devotion, that these three sadhanas become yoga. Next question: how does Lord Krishna further subdivide karma yoga?
Karma yoga can be divided into two parts. One is prasada bhavana and the ishvararpana bhavana.
Yes, you are right. When one follows materialistic desires, it is with prasada bhavana. It is karma pradhana karma yoga. Next question: how does Lord Krishna subdivide upasana yoga?
Upasana yoga can be divided into two. One is ekarupa ishvara upasana and the second one is aneka rupa ishvara upasana.
Yes, that is Vishwarupa Ishvara Dhyana. Following material goals, when one accepts the results of phalam, both good and bad, with Ishvara Arpana Bhava, is Upasana Yoga level. Then Sakama Karma becomes lesser and lesser. Next question: what is Jnana Yoga?
Jnana yoga is nothing but nididhyasana and can be called arupa ishvara dhyana.
Right. Enquiring into self, Nirguna Ishvara Brahman. It is discovering God in oneself. Next question. In verse 1, Arjuna asks which form of bhakti is superior, Saguna Ishvara Bhakti or Nirguna Ishvara Bhakti? Why is this question incorrect?
See, the comparison can be made between two similar aspects, not on two different forms. The question is itself is not right because Arupa Saguna Ishvara Bhakti and Nirguna Ishvara Bhakti are two different things.
Yes, Saguna Bhakti is the means and Nirguna Bhakti is the end. Saguna Bhakti is Dvaitam and Nirguna Bhakti is Advaitam. Saguna Bhakti is Vedaha and Nirguna Bhakti is Abhedaha. Therefore, everyone has to go through Saguna Bhakti to come to Nirguna Bhakti, which is the culmination of the sadhana. Next question: who is called a Parabhakta?
I think a person who has gone through all the 5 stages of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga can be called as a Parabhakta.
Yes, he is a Jnani who is Advaitam, who has discovered or gained the knowledge of Aham Brahma Asmi, which is the culmination of Bhakti Yoga. Next question. In verse 2, what is Krishna's response to Arjuna's question? Who are the best yogis?
Krishna gives a very diplomatic answer to this question. He praises Saguna Bhaktas and says Nirguna Bhaktas will attain me.
Yes, like all gurus, Lord Krishna, encouraging both kinds of seekers, says Saguna Bhaktas are superior, but Nirguna Bhaktas attain me. Next question. Krishna describes Nirguna Brahma in verse 3. Mention the terms used by Lord Krishna in this verse. Imperishable Nirguna Brahma.
Is it Aksharam?
Yes, Akshara. Next one. Imperceptible by any sense organs.
Call it Avyaktam?
Yes. Ishvara in his highest form is Avyaktaha, not possible to any sense organs. That is Sarva Indriya Agochar. Next, C. Nirguna Brahma cannot be objectified by mind.
Yes, Achintyam.
Right. Many things cannot be perceived by the sense organs. but it can be conceived by the mind, like love, happiness, anger, etc. But achintyam means inconceivable by the mind also. You cannot objectify God. Next one. Ishvara is indescribable.
Anirdeshyam.
Yes. Ishvara cannot be definable. So Ishvara is avyaktam, imperceptible, achintyam, inconceivable, and also anirdesh, indescribable. So what is the Upanishad word for omnipresent?
Can we call it Sarvavyapi?
Sarvatragam, yes. Sarvatragam. Yes. Next one. Since he is all pervading, he is immovable.
He's Achalam.
Right. Achalam means which does not move. Lord is all pervading. Sarvatragam. Therefore, just as the space cannot move from one place to another, Nirguna Krishna does not come and go. Achalam. Achalam and Sarvatragam means free from all spatial limitations. Next question. Next one. He remains changeless like an anvil.
Kutasthaha.
Right. Kutasthaha means immutable. Kutaha means an anvil, a heavy block of iron or steel on which most metals like gold are shaped by hammering, but the anvil does not change its shape or appearance. Like so, the higher nature of Nirguna Krishna is Kutasthaha, free from all changes or modifications. Next question. Why is the whole universe called Prapancha?
Maybe the world is a blend of 5 sense organs, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and that's why it is called Prapancha.
Yes. The whole physical universe is a blend of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Without these 5 sense organs, the whole world disappears or cannot be seen or found. Next question. What are the qualifications required to meditate upon Nirguna Brahma?
It's mastery of extroverted senses, commitment to the well-being of beings. Third one I cannot recollect, madam, sorry.
Okay, I'll tell you. Indriya Gramam Samanyamya, mastery of the extroverted sense organs. It is meditation upon Nirguna Brahman. The wandering sense organs and the mind have to be brought under control and directed inward. Second one, Sarvatra Samubhudayaha, equanimity of the mind. If there is a strong attachment or aversion to an object, the mind will be disturbed. One must reduce the intensity of raga dvesha. Third one, Sarva Bhutahite Rataha, commitment to the well-being of all beings. Sarve Santu Niramaya. 12th one, according to Krishna, why is Nirguna Dhyanam difficult for most people?
Is it because of body attachment, that is Deha Bhimana?
Yes, because of Deha Vimana, body and mind is an obstacle. Question 13. Nirguna Brahma Upasana is a meditation upon the meditator. Is it so?
Yeah, naturally, because it is self-study, no?
Yes, it is Atma Dhyanam or Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam or Brahma Ishvara Dhyanam. That is the seer and the seer or mental activity.
Upasana is always a mental activity, manasa karma.
Yes, Manasa Karma. Withdrawing of all jitendriyas or karmendriyas, withdraw the mind away from external world. Make it antramukyam. Look inwards to visualize God mentally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Padma, for a very informative quiz. Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for an interesting session with your insightful talk. Thank you, Dr. Hegde, sir, for making it more interesting by converting the session into an interactive one. And thank you, friends, for your active participation. Let's log in for our verse-by-verse Gita session 143 on 14th April 2023 for our study of 18th chapter. Please log in at 6:45 p.m. sharp Friday. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.